Welcome back to another episode of Sales Leaders Weekly Debrief. Well, we're back for another episode, Mike, and I guess before we get started, we should probably start with the fact that we just had a fantastic week at the John Maxwell Conference and down in Orlando, and it never goes without shenanigans. So, I'm going to be completely honest and talk about a valuable lesson that I learned while we were down there. We were going up the escalator to go to Starbucks I don't even remember. It was so embarrassing, I don't even remember exactly what I was doing. All I know is I get distracted by a bunch of people that are at the table beside us and they're playing some game on the computer or whatever. And Mike, you see something unfolding before your eyes. Tell me exactly what it is that you see unfolding before your eyes.
Well, it became quite obvious that you were headed towards one of the banners and you were going to crash into it. So I didn't want to take away from the moment.
Oh, so, is that what that was?
The only wish is that I would have been a little quicker on the draw with my camera on my phone so I could have gotten it on video. But I could see that it wasn't something that was going to be painful other than to your pride. That's to say the least. And the best part about that was when we went and told somebody else about it, they said how terrible you were because you saw it happening, but they laughed just as hard as you did, so I don't know who was terrible. It was brutal. I mean, just completely brutal. And it was one of those things where you knew everybody saw it, so you had to somehow come out on top and be, look good out of it, which I don't know if I... See, I don't know if brutal would describe it. I thought it was one of your defining moments of the week.
Great. Well, yeah, of the week. Tripping over myself. But that really damaged my importance now that we're leading into the next part of the conversation here. But
well, it's all in representation. It made you very important at the moment.
Yeah, all eyes on me. So let's chat a little bit about, we've been talking a little bit about the three branches of life, our necessities, and how we can really understand that to hire really good people. And so, let's talk a little bit about that. I think, one of the things that's going to come up right away when we're talking about, hiring great people, and we start hearing about, the process that we use to do that, people are going to really start to think, well, man, aren't you narrowing it down to just a very small portion of people?
Absolutely. How many of you out there doing hiring are always in training mode? You hire somebody, you interview several people, you find the best one you think will, or maybe sometimes it's the worst of the best, or the best of the worst, and then you get them in and you train them, and they're great people. But there's something missing, and after you've gone through all this training process, they don't work out, and you get back into the hiring process. Then you get back into the training process. You have to fill the position, so you take the best of the worst. You train them for a little bit, and then you wind up letting them go when you go back into the training process again.
So I think once we start going through the process here and start talking about how we do narrow down a rock star, a salesperson by using the three branches of life, people are going to start asking, well, isn't that a lot of criteria? Isn't it going to really narrow it down to just a select few of people that is a good hire?
It should. It definitely should. One of the issues you have as a sales manager is how much time you're spending on the training process. And what I mean by that is, do you hire the best of the worst because you have to fill the position? And then you find out 6 months into the training process they're not the right one, you wind up getting rid of them and you're back into the hiring process again. Same thing, you still need to fill that position, so you hire the best of the worst. 6 months later, you're back through it and you're constantly in training process. For instance, I was hiring a sales leader in the Madison area, and I was in a pinch to fill the position because we needed it filled. And I took shortcuts because of that. That's the worst thing you can do when you're hiring is take shortcuts.
For sure.
And I hired somebody because they were good and relational, they seemed to have importance, and they were expansion and sharing, but security was strong for them. And it should have been realized to me when they simply told me, they asked me the question, well, how much traveling time am I going to, how far away from home am I going to have to go? That should have been the first indication, no, this is not going to work right.
Yeah, and I think, with that is we get so much in a pinch, and this is why it's so important that we're always looking for good people. You're always hiring because you can always make good room for a good salesperson. And that's what happens. You end up getting in a pinch, and you hire the wrong people. So you make these mentions of importance and relational. So let's break down the necessities a little bit and talk about when we go through the 3 branches of life and touch into the 6 necessities that we talk about in our training, the 3 branches of life training that we do. First of all, let's talk about the head. So what is exactly that we're looking for, in the head, how they think, security versus diversity? How do you figure that out? What's important there?
Well, anybody well versed in sales know that there's peaks and valleys. As you get better at it, the valleys will come up and the peaks aren't quite as high, and it starts to level out with time. But that takes time.
Yeah.
Initially, there are going to be huge peaks and valleys, and somebody that is security-based isn't going to deal well with that. You're going to lose them. They have to be diversity-based. They have to understand. They have to have that variety, that need for variety. When they have that need, they can overcome that. But if they're security-based, they will not be able to overcome that. It'll override everything else.
Right. And so what's a question that you can ask that kind of brings out their diversity?
Previous work history. I always ask them, so what did you like about your job? And they'll let you know what they liked about it. If they liked the fact that it was a constant paycheck, that's a pretty good indicator that they're security based.
Okay.
If they were there a very long time,
yep.
and maybe the question that they say that somebody else bought the company, and I didn't get the same feelings from it. That's probably a good indication they're security based. Or when how did you know you did a great job? Well, it was the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
I knew it was a great job when it was the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
Very good indicators of security based.
You mean to tell me somebody that doesn't like a lot of routine typically isn't going to be a good salesperson?
No, they won't be. They simply won't be. Routine is okay if once they get into what they figure out works for them, but that's a growth aspect. That's not a security aspect.
I see.
That's understanding a process to grow.
Yeah, and I mean we've seen it time and time again. When somebody's looking for consistency, they're looking for something to happen at the same time every time. It's that diversity. It's that spice of life that makes salespeople really come alive, because they can deal with change well, and change is happening all the time when it comes to sales, whether it's in the midst of a sales process, in the midst of changing territories because your office is expanding, or whatever the deal is. They just deal with change so much better. So
how would you find out that they're diversity then?
The thing that I'm always looking for is they're telling me they like something new all the time. They like challenges. They like something that's changing environments. For me, I'm so high on variety. I love changing environments, and so I'm always looking for them to say that they're looking for something new, because that's a good indication that they're really high on variety. So the next branch would be the heart. This is my favorite aspect of it because I'm a really passionate person and I live so much in here. And if you don't have somebody that's passionate, that's not really high in importance, that they don't like to feel like they are the best, or they don't like to build relationships with people, they're going to struggle.
So this is what I've learned from this, is typically people, you take the 6 necessities of life, which are part of the 3 branches, and typically people will be strong in 2 of those. That's not the ones you're looking for. We're looking for the elite here. And the elite are strong in a number of areas. There's lots of ways that they can motivate themselves. So I'm looking for somebody who's strong in importance. One question I will definitely ask every time, all the time, without fail: are you a superstar? If they struggle answering that, they're not a superstar. It's
Right.
as simple. They have to believe that they're a superstar.
Yeah.
They have to be a winner. They have to believe in winning. They have to believe in being number one, and they must see themselves as a leader. If you don't get those aspects, you're looking. You better start looking.
You bring up a great point. So I see this often, and we do when we talk to sales teams. This word leader, this buzzword leader is kind of interesting. So people that are importance driven, they like to lead. They like to, whether they're necessarily the leader of the organization, the team, or whatever, they still identify themselves as a leader, because really we know leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And so everybody leads themselves, right? They have to lead themselves. Everybody's a leader. We are all developed to be a leader. Now, to what capacity you lead might be something different, but leadership is not positional. It's completely influence. And so I like the fact that you brought that up, because if they don't see themselves as a leader, who do they see themselves as?
That's interesting. So what is the difference between a leader and a positional?
So a manager, right, we hear this is somebody that is leading by position. They use leverage because they're the boss. And how you can quickly know whether or not you're a leader by position or by influence is take away a paycheck and take away a time card and take away leverage, and is anybody still following you? So when we go in and do assessments with sales teams and whatnot, we're always asking, how bought in is the team to the leader? Now, the leader, sometimes we'll find the leader's not the manager. The leader is somebody else on the sales team, and they're leading because of the influence that they have on their team. Good or bad or indifferent, the position doesn't always necessarily mean they're the leader.
And sales is about leadership. You have to be a good leader.
Absolutely.
You have to be congruent in what you do. And leaders are very congruent.
Absolutely. So why do you think that leadership is so important, or being identified as a leader is so important as a good salesperson?
Well, when it comes down to sales, there is going to be the point where your client or whoever it is going to have remorse. And it takes a strong leader to get them through that. They have to believe in you. If they don't believe in you, it's never going to work.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The other thing that we're looking for is somebody that's really high in building relationships with people. They love to connect with people, and whether it's a surface level or a deep level, they have this desire. And I think this is super important, and this is something that a lot of people will overlook, because sometimes the perception of somebody being a rock star salesperson will be misconstrued because they're really high on importance, so they have a great ego. They really think a lot about themselves. But they definitely don't see the value in really connecting with people, and in real sales, we have to build relationships with people for them to for that sales cycle to really be something that's not just transactional, but it's actually over a long period of time.
Dave Ramsey said something that really made me think about this, and he said, a good salesman has the heart of a teacher, and that is completely about relational. Now, it can be importance also, and it's good that it's both. So questions you'd want to ask in this scenario is, once again, so last position you were at, how did you know you did a good job? And the person you're looking for it says, because people looked up to me. People liked what I said. That is not only importance, that is also relational at the same time. When somebody says that they were happy with the way people looked up to them, I know that it's both importance and relational, and that's typically a winner in that case. The last aspect of this is the spirit. And the spirit is about team. In any organization, you have to have a strong team. So why do you think I would think that spirit is very important?
Well, it's this is something that's not talked about as often, especially when you have an organization where they have a sales team. They'll call it a sales team, but really it's people that are in different branches all over, expanded in a large area, and so it kind of can seem like they're all individuals working apart from each other. But really, if they're all under the same organization, they're really a team, and you've got to think about that as a team. And in order for you to have a strong team, you have to have salespeople that are willing to grow. They cannot live off of yesterday's performance. We've heard it many times. As soon as the month is over, what happens? Everything starts over. And so you have to be willing to look at ways that you can expand not just yourself, but you can help everybody else around you grow, because we know this is that when a team is bought into learning together, everybody individually grows and wins exponentially that way.
And not only do they have to be willing to grow, but they actually have to be passionate about it. It has to push them. It's the passion that needs to push them. Once they've expanded, that naturally goes to sharing. And sharing is what brings groups together. A common goal. Everybody's got the common goal. Now their rules on how to get there are a little different, but if they have the right frame of mind, the heart of a teacher, where they're sharing, they're doing it to connect with people, to share with people, then you've got a strong sales leader, and it'll pick the whole team up if that's the case.
But we have seen people that, you know, are really good salespeople, but they're not necessarily teaching or growing. So how can we say that in order to be a good person for a sales team, they got to do that?
Great question. Great salespeople can be great if it's about the money, and it should be. I mean, everybody's got to make money. That's what the business is all about. But that's not where fulfillment comes from. You show me somebody where money is most important to them, I'll show you a short-term fix. They have to get fulfillment out of the process. It comes through importance, it comes through relational, it comes through most and foremost is the sharing part of it. And they have to get that fulfillment, otherwise they're a short-term solution.
Yeah, I definitely can see that, because you know, we've experienced this, that especially for people that are importance driven, they want to be unique, they want to do something special, they want to feel like nobody else could do it but them. We've really seen that, you know, money, everybody can earn money. Money is not hard to come by. It's around every corner if you're just looking for it. So to really get your importance, to really get your uniqueness in life, it doesn't come from earning a ton of money, because once you've earned a ton, you quickly realize, well, there's a lot of people that have done that. So the only way to really get this fulfillment that you're talking about is understanding that, you know, I have to do something that's unique to me, and that's about purpose. It's not necessarily about money. So when we went through this process and we started to really develop, you know, the formula for understanding how to hire people using our 3 branches of life, it's almost a shoe-in. When we find these people that are in, you know, high on diversity, high on importance, high on building relationships, and they get into the spirit of things by growing and sharing with others, I mean, you really have a formula for success, and it's almost a shoe-in every time.
And you can't take a shortcut.
Yeah.
The formula you have to follow. If you can't find somebody that fits the formula, you haven't found anybody.
Right.
You have to keep going back until you find that formula. Otherwise, you're going to be dissatisfied every time, and you're going to stay in that training process.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm so passionate about people really understanding this stuff and really getting a deep knowledge of how to really understand what people's necessities are, you know, understanding the 3 branches of life, and really getting a good understanding of who is it sitting in front of them so that they can hire the best people for their sales team.
You hear the adage all the time, 20% of the salespeople produce 80%. That's because they think like you're hiring them for your reasons, not theirs. And they buy into your process because they think like you. Mm-hmm. If you change that philosophy and you hire due to their strengths and you apply due to their strengths and their necessities, anybody can be at that level. But you have to look for that type of person. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Sales Leaders Weekly Debrief. We'd love to hear your biggest takeaway in the comments below. If you like the secret to hiring sales leaders, join us at inspiredmotivatedleadership.com/3branches.
Hey, thanks for stopping over at Inspire Motivated Leadership's YouTube channel. If you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe right here. And if you want to watch another episode, go ahead and click right here, and we'll see you next time.